you how you can use the Git Diff tool for code reviews. So if you don't know what Git is a SEM, that's a source code management. It allows you to do collaboration, or if you're working on by yourself, you can also benefit from using. I'll give you an example. So for example, I have projects. Sometimes I'm the lead developer or the only developer. So I do use Git in that I'm able to push a few changes. For example, it could be simple things like say CSS or spelling mistakes. So they're simple, and sometimes I might need to revert. I've never needed to do that, but by using Git, you can simply just, for example, I can push things maybe only to the development side or the test side, or like there's also I always like to make an experimental side. So if there are like radical new changes, I'll push them to the experimental side. What I personally like to do is to have the test side. It's usually a one-to-one with the actual live site. So this way, if there are things that I need to do quickly, like bug fixes, I can push it to the test side. If everything is fine, then I can push them right to the live side. Now, remember I was telling you if there's a massive changes, I push that to the experimental side. Once everything's get approved, then I'll push it to the test side. So this allows me to see how what I would need to do when I push it to the live side, because the changes are so radical. So if everything is fine on the test side, then I can easily push it to the live side. So when I'm doing that, for example, when I'm working, usually work by myself, is I may need to see what the previous what the difference was between my the changes I'm trying to push and the previous ones, or maybe last year or another year. Because sometimes a customer said, "Oh, you know what? I like the way the site used to work 5 years ago. Can we do that?" And I'm like, if I've set up Git, then that won't be a problem. But sometimes when Git hasn't been set up, I have to go and basically go for memory. So that's more difficult. So that's what Git is for. Anyways, so if you're a web designer or an application developer, you can use Git to track changes or versions. Git is a distributed version control system. That's DVCS. Every repository has a local copy of the source code. So it contains the complete history, therefore rendering a central server redundant or network independent. So what this means is, again, for example, I work in a more rural area here. So very rarely, actually, it's only happened one time during the recent ice storm, is I was out power for 17 hours. But if I was working on something, as long as I have a little bit of power, it could be solar or anything, I could still continue working on some project or anything. It would not slow me down. And when I'm done, then I'll be able to see the changes between what I last pushed or what's the current ones, the current state. Anyways, so that's why Diff tool, if you remember what a diff is basically a set of changes, a patch. So but however, the default Diff tool is usually a command line tool. So you might want to use your favorite one. Like for example, I like using Meld because it has a GUI, and I can simply go back and forth in visually. Now, sometimes, of course, if there's too much code, then I would work on a command line. But sometimes I just need some very quickly visually, and that's why I prefer to use Meld. But you can use any other tool you want. There's so many tools out there, as you will see when we actually head to the command line. So a quick reminder that every day I'll be hosting a live stream. You simply visit ojambo.com. You go to the watch menu here, you go to the live menu, then you see, like right now, this is the current one. This is the Git Difftool for code reviews, and it's on Odyssey. And you see the approximate date and time. But for example, this is the one that's next. That's for tomorrow. Just a quick reminder that I might change the time here for this one or the one for Sunday, because of obviously it's Easter. So, tomorrow is actually Sunday. I meant Monday. I'll probably be spending some time away to visit family and friends and some customers. So I probably change these. I might actually make them a little bit earlier, or I might do it much later in the evening. Okay, so if you notice, I also tweaked the. I did some styling here. Now you can see when the commands, there's I put a little background color to them, so as commands, so you know what to which ones to use. It just makes it easier to read. Okay, so also be sure to subscribe, like, follow, and leave comments for more frequent content. So we've gone through all this stuff before, what Git is, what a repository is. So it's all here in the glossary. So you can see repository is a project storage space where all changes to files are tracked. And what a branch is, this enables developers to work on different versions of project. For example, as I was saying, is that in the branches, I would have the experimental one for the experimental site, the test one for the test site, and then obviously the master, or I know you're not supposed to say that anymore, you're supposed to call it main, which is actually not a bad name. That's for the, obviously, the live site or the main site. And what is a stage? So a stage is, that's where you prepare a commit by adding files to the staging area. When you stage things, that doesn't actually mean you're going to push them. It just means that you can stage them, and then you can go work on something else. I'll give you an example. So let's say I'm working on at the experimental site. I can commit those changes, and then let's say that I have to work on a bug fix immediately for the test site and live site. Then because those changes are staged, they're saved, so I don't need to worry about it. I can simply revert to an earlier version and then work on the bug fixes or things like that. So that lets me work on different versions without having to pull everything in. Like I see that you notice one of the things, if you read the tutorials, people say, "Oh, just pull a fresh copy of everything." Why do you want to do that, right? When you just need to, it's going to take a while, especially when a site is very old or very has a lot of content, or if you work in an application that's has a lot of code, you don't want to pull everything. It'd be like gigabytes of source code, which you don't look like. So what a commit is, this captures the staged changes as a snapshot to add to a repository's history. So this doesn't mean you're going to push. It just means that if your local version will have those commits. And then a diff generates a set of differences between two files or folders. And then a patch is simply to apply the set of differences to update files. Okay, and for this tutorial, if you're going to work on a remote site for SSH, that's a secure shell client, OpenSSH, I think there's LibreSSH, there's a whole bunch of them as well, and shell access, that just means command line, and Git. So the good thing is, as of now, spring 2025, obviously it's very easy to get Git on the command line on if you're on Linux, same if you're on a Mac, and nowadays if you use Windows as well, it's actually pretty easy to do that. The only thing you might need is to install Git, but I think if you actually install like I think Visual Studio Code or one of those ones on Windows, it probably comes with it, so you can just install that and you'll be able to follow along for this tutorial. Okay, so for this particular tutorial, what I'm going to do is I'm going to basically set up a Git for my for this tutorial. So the first thing we'll do is we'll create a remote repository. It doesn't have to be remote, like on a remote server somewhere. It could actually be local. It could be in a different folder or anything. That's how we're gonna do it today. And then we'll create our local repository. And this one, it's up to you. You can keep it separate from your source code, or you can just. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna keep it in the same folder as my work project, where I'm working on the project, because I think that's the easiest way for when people are learning Git. I don't want to confuse you. You can actually keep it separate, but for this particular tutorial, I'm going to keep it in the same work folder. Just it will make things easier to understand. And then what I will do, we'll create a new file to the local repository, and then we'll connect the local project to the remote repository, or basically the local repository to the remote one, and then we'll push the changes to the remote repository. Then what we're going to do is we're going to modify that file, and then we're going to compare changes. So then you will see how you are able to change your default diff tool. Even if you're in a command line, you're able to change your default diff tool. Now, of course, if you're using something else, like for example an IDE like NetBeans, or I think even Visual Studio Code, they usually have a pretty GUI doing diffs and everything as well. So now, so to follow along, I said you can get Git. You can download it from this link here. Then you just install it on your system, and the diff utils. I did a review of this previously, so you can download them from here. This link is here as well. And then, as I said, I'm going to use Meld as my preferred diff tool. So you can get Meld. I think I did a tutorial on Meld as well. So you can also download from this link here. So, and this basically is what we're going to be doing. And there's screenshots of how everything works. I don't know why this one is missing. But you'll see everything here today. And of course, this is the live stream. Right now it's on Odyssey. So you can follow along there. You can ask questions and I'll be able to reply. And as you can see here, Git is, all the tools I'm using are open source. Git is open source. It's actually licensed under the GNU General Public License version 2. Diff Tools is also licensed under the GNU Public License version 3 or later. And Meld is licensed under GNU Public License version 2 or later. So all these licenses are copyleft. That means that they have strict rules and requirements to ensure software remains free and open source. But they all allow commercial use, modification, distribution, and making derivatives proprietary. Consult the license for more specific details. All right, so let's head over to the command line and we can get started here. Now, of course, you should be able to follow along in any IDE as well. It's not a, it's pretty straightforward as well. So minimize this. And you see this folder here created. It's called git-diff-tool 2. Okay, so I'm just going to open a console here and make it a little easier to see, make clear. And I'm going to just I think I should make it taller. Okay, there we go. I'm going to zoom in a little bit so you can see better. Yeah, that should be really good. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I am going to create a remote repository. So I'm going to put it in the same folder here, but you can do whatever you want. So I'm going to call it, so you can create a folder, then go inside the folder, then you type git init, then slash, dash bear. However, you can combine those and it will create the project, the repository for you. So what I'll do is I'll just git int bear and then the name. So I'll just call it project.git. So, and you see it created this project.git. So this is going to act as our remote repository. Next, and don't worry about this config and all this. We actually talk about we'll talk about that later in this tutorial. So this is because my default Git, I haven't configured it globally. The reason for that is because I said I work on multiple projects, and most of them I'm the lead developer, but some of them I might just be a consultant or whatever. So I don't want. That's why I don't use global, because I don't want my global configuration to be used. So because I'm saying I don't always contribute in all projects anyway, so it doesn't make sense to configure globally. I always do it locally, and I'm going to show you how to do that. Okay, so next, let me clear this. So next, what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a project folder. So this is, I'll call it local project. So this is where I'm going to be working, in the local project. So I'll cd into the local project. And then here, you can type git to initialize it. So you see, to initialize it, and you can notice it's very similar to the previous one. And honestly, I didn't put bear, and I'll show you the difference. So this project.git, when you go inside, you have the config, you have the description, the head. Remember, because it was a bear, we used bear. So it has all these things. So this is meant just as a repository, just to hold things that we send to it. So local one here, if you notice, it looks like it's empty, but it's not. The reason is because those it created you see here, it created a dot git. So on Unix type system, that's Mac OS, Linux, BSD, and etc. When a folder or a file starts with a dot, that means that it's hidden. So if we click here and I go to show hidden files, if I show hidden files, you see it's .git. So if we go in here, you notice it also has a config, description, head, and all this stuff. So that's similar to our remote repository. So I'll leave it. I'll leave it shown. So because we're going to be doing things in there. So you can see here it gives us some hints, so we can create branches and all this. So I'll show you how we can create our own branch soon as well. And you see names commonly chosen instead of master are main, trunk, and development, right? So that's because by default it used to be master, and that's how I did learn it. So you'll probably see me say master, including my old tutorials on Git as well. Okay, so next thing I want to do is here in our project folder is I want to create I'll call it a README file. So I'll just echo. You can use any text editor you want up, but I'm just in the command line here. Did you know that ojambo.com has a donate button? So readme.txt. So now I've created this readme.txt file. I can cut it. See its content, or if you really want, I can open up in a text editor, and you see it says, do you know that ojambo.com has a donate button? So it's just a plain text file. Okay. Now, to start tracking this particular file, we need to add it. So I'll git add readme.txt. So now that I've added it, it's going to be tracked. So any changes I make, it will be tracked. Now I'm going to commit this file. So I put git commit, and I'll give it a message, initial commit. So you see here, it has committed it. So if it still says master, right? Even though they want to move to main, I guess because it was master before, I guess when I did an upgrade, so it kept it as master. So you see it committed this, and you see it gave us an ID here. So in the future, we can actually look for this particular commit by looking for its unique ID, which is this one here. And it also tells us one file changed, of course, there's a new file, and there's one insertion, obviously, because it's that file. And then it says the create mode. I'll explain what this is. So the 644, the 6 here stands for read-write, read-write permissions. 4 just means read for the same owner as this one here, and then for everybody else has this 4. That means they can only read, they can't actually modify the file. And then what this 100 means, this is just a number that was created by Git, so that Git will know that to use only this part here. This number depends on the type of system. They might be system specific, but all I care about is this 644. So for example, if I right click on this and look at the properties, you see permissions here. So the owner, remember I said, has read and write access. The group that the owner belongs to, that's me. But you see the access is read only. That's the 4 here. And then the last 4 at the end, that's others. You see they read only. So that's what the 4 is there. Now you can see the other permissions you have. They could be none, read only, or read and write. So I'm sure you can easily figure that out. Is that if this was 666, that means everybody anywhere can read and write to that file. Now, if it was a 00 here, that means the only that means the group and everybody else would not be able to read or actually get that file. Now there's some other numbers like a 5 and a 7. The 7 is for directories. That means read write in the directory. A 5 means execute. So if this was 5, that's what it means. It means that you can read and write. No, you can read and execute a file. So this is just a plain text file. It doesn't make sense to execute it. So you might see 5. For example, if you have a web server like Apache, because Apache needs to be able to execute those files like PHP or Python or something else. So that's why you might see a 5. But in my case, just a plain text file. So it just needs read and write. That's all it needs. Okay. So now with that out of the way, what we're going to do now is we're going to add our remote repository. Remember this remote repository here? So this one here, project.git. So we need to add it to our local project here. So the easiest way to do that is you type git remote add origin and then the path to the to your remote repository. So for example, if I was using SSH as an example here, it would be something like polyedward at whatever, or jambo show dot local. And if you have a specific port number, you'd also put it in there. But in my case, because it's just it's just a folder, so I just project.git. So it's been added here. Then what I can do, I can now do my git push. In case you don't know what this means just go back one folder. So for example, here where I am, if I go back one folder, it'll take me here, and you see that now I'll be able to find it. Now you can also put the long path to it, but there's no need to do that. So here we go. I'll go back to, so I can push it now. So I get git push origin master. Now if you remember, my local when I create a repository, it's already master. So before I do this, I want to show you something. So if you go into the git folder here and look at the config, let's open up in the text editor here and take a look at it. So you can see here, you can change this stuff. So it already did this when I added the remote. So remote, you see here, I called origin. And the URL, this is where you could actually modify this to put whatever URL you want. And then by default, I'm able to fetch from the remote origin as well, meaning I can pull things in from the remote server because I've added it here. Now, if you notice, if I needed a password, it saves the password depending on your system somewhere else. But in this case, now I'm going to push it. You see, I said origin master. So master is my local repository, it's master, and origin is the one I termed the remote one. But right now those branches don't really exist, so they're going to be created when I do this. So if I press enter, we take a look at what happened here. So push, it says emulating objects 3 done, counting objects 100%, blah blah blah, and then you see it created a new branch, master to master. So it automatically knew that my local version is master, so it's going to make master a master branch in the remote one as well, and that way there will be one to one, the master to master. So every time I push, it will do this. So I don't need to do a remote add anymore, it's already there. And now if I refresh this page, I think this page is, let me open up here. Okay, yeah, it didn't change. So nothing here changed. But if you want to change things, you just simply go and change them yourself here. You see it says file mode true. So that means that my, if I for example make, let me actually get out of here. If I change the permissions of this file, they'll also change in the obviously in the remote repository, and then when you pull them up, the permissions will be there. Now this only works on obviously Unix and a Unix type system, that's Linux, Mac OS, or whatever, those permissions, like I showed you, the 644, those have no bearing on Windows. As far as I know, unless Microsoft did something special, but they do not. Okay, so now that we have done this, I'm going to edit this file. So I can edit this README file here. I can edit it in your text editor, but I'm just going to append something to it. So I'll say, and that is found in the, and that it is, yeah, it is found in the header bar. readme.txt. So this is how it will append. It's the two arrows, or two greater than symbols. So when I did that, I'll prove it to you. So readme, see here, it's discard changes and reload. I'll zoom up here. So you see it said, did you know that ojambo.com has a donate button, and that is found in it. Let me actually change it here. It is found in the header. Oh my goodness, header bar. Okay, there we go. Okay, so I changed it, as you can see here. All right. So now that I've done that, when I can cut the README. So yeah, that's fine. That's the way I want it to look like. Now I type git status. So you see, it knows that, remember, we started tracking this file. That's the first thing we did today. So it knows that this file has been modified, right? But this, it also tells me that right here when I type git status, it says I'm on the branch master. Remember when we did our first push, it created the master branch. So that's where we are. And then changes not staged for commit. So it's giving you a hint that you should use git add to update what will be committed. But in my particular case, this file is already being tracked. I don't need to do that. And then you can also do a git restore to discard changes in the working directory. So it's found out that this file has been modified. So if I want to get rid of those changes, I can just click git restore. And then it will go back to the previous version without that second line that we added. And then it says no changes added to commit. So you can use git add. We don't need to do a git add because it's I said this file is already being tracked, and all. So in our case, it will be all git commit A. So this one will, this A just means that it will commit it without having a message. So it's a good idea to have a message, but it's not mandatory. So this is a short form in case you're confused. One more time. So when you click git add, you can add specific files, individual files, but sometimes that can be a nuisance. So you might want to add all the files, so they can do the git commit -a. That means add it and then add it and commit it. So if you notice, as I said, so this file has been modified. Now let's say, like the example I gave before, where the power went out and I was working on this file, and then this actually happened 17 hours later, the power came back on. So I've obviously been making changes, and I would want to know, oh, what is the difference between my changes and the one on the remote one? So, or in the commit. So what I can do is, I know, as you guys have seen today, is that the only thing in the remote repository is clearly this file, readme.txt, because I'm the only one who has access to the remote repository right now. So I don't need to worry about that, but I need to see what the changes are between the modifications I made and the committed changes. So to do that, you type git diff. And you see git diff will tell us that, hey, A readme.txt and B /readme.txt, meaning there's a difference. And it tells us what the differences are here. It says that, you don't need to know this, I'll explain that later. It says that, you see the first line is exactly the same on both files, but the second line, it says, you see and that it found, it is, and that it found is found in the, wow, this is terrible. Okay, I need to fix this one more time. And that it is found, oh, I did it twice. It is found in, there we go. So let me run a git diff again. There we go. And it is found in the header bar. Okay. So what this means is that, you see, when I keep on changes, it automatically knows that it's changed. That what it's telling me is -1 + 1. This means that in the original file, it's lacking the second line. And in B here, that's a +++, meaning that there's been additions. So that's what the plus means. So now you should be able to read this. -1 means the first file, this one A, it's lacking the minus, it's lacking the second line. This is what it's lacking. Then in the second file, something has been added. That's what the plus means. That means it's on the second row. That's what that is. So it's pretty easy to read. Now, I am just like you, and I sure in the world don't want to be looking at this. I mean, unless you have a lot of code quickly, yes. I don't want to look at this. I prefer to use my favorite diff tool. So when you type git diff tool, it will give you a few options. It will tell you that you can add your favorite diff tool. So for example, you can use OpenDiff, KDiff3, TKDiff, XXDiff, Meld. I happen to have Meld. Compare, GVim, Diff, Diffuse. Oh, I used to like this one. I should actually do a review of this one. And Diff Merge, EC Merge, P4 Merge, Araxis, BC Code, Compare, S Merge, Merge, Vim Diff, and M Vim Diff. Okay. Now, it knows that the first file, or the only file I'm looking for, is readme.txt, and then it says it can launch meld for me. So I don't even need to put diff to meld. It automatically, it can automatically detect it for me. So if I had multiple tools, it would give me an option to select them. So I'm going to type yes here, and it's going to open up meld for me. This is meld. Meld doesn't have an auto dynamic zoom, so the only way to do that, you have to go to the, where's the preferences here, and then stop using the system font, and there we go. So I've stopped using the system font. Oops. I've stopped using the system font. Now let me close this. This is just for your convenience, so you can see. So you see the original file. And you can see here it says /temp git blob, blah, 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 whatever that is. And then it says, did you know that ojambo.com has a donate button, right? Now, this one, you can see it's actually right from the current file. You see the location local project /readme.txt. So you see the first line is exactly the same. Great. The second line is it says it's not found in the header bar, right? And sorry, and that it's found in the header bar. Wow. And you can see it's color coordinated here, even with my dark theme. So, and then it tells by this indication, it's missing that it's missing here. So this one, if you notice, this is the git, the actual one that's in the repository is lacking this one. So if I click this, then it will be 1-to-1, and if I hit save, this means that meld will automatically do a commit for me. However, I prefer to do, so let's try it. So here, I'm going to do that. Now it says the files are identical. Now if I try to exit here, it's probably going to, yeah, it tells me close without saving. No. So I want to save it. So I'm going to hit save. Now let's do a git status. So it still tells me that the changes haven't been committed, which is true. I haven't committed them yet. So let me actually do a Git tool again. Meld. Yeah, and it's exactly the same. So nothing's happened here. So I haven't done any pushing or anything like that. Okay, so remember, I'm just using meld as a diff tool. I'm not using it as a merge tool. That will be in a future tutorial. I'm just using it as a diff tool. Okay, so now what I can do is I can simply you know, I can do something else. I can commit the changes or not. I'm not going to commit them. So I want to finish up the Git tool here. So you can type git config global, then you type diff tool, and I can type meld. Okay, so when I do this, you see I put global. So when I do this, now if I type git diff tool, you might say, hey, nothing changed. Actually, if I go back to here and my config file here, it should have changed. So let's double check that. Oh, I put it in the global. I didn't put in the local one. So you can also put it in your config file manually if you want. You can simply go there. So let me just check it here. Git local. Okay, so what you can also do is you can also simply open up your I wonder if I can just go git. Yeah, I could. If I'm going to remove the global and I just put it here. Yeah, there we go. So now if I open up this config file, it should put it in here. Yeah, you see here? It says diff. It's going to be tool equals meld. So you can either do this yourself by putting in here or type in diff tool. It will automatically. So I put it for my diff. So if I go back here and I put gif diff, maybe I should have put diff tool. Oh yeah, I should have put diff tool. Okay, so let me actually change that to diff tool. Okay, so let's configure this. Yeah, so my diff tool is meld. Now I'm wondering if I just type git diff tool. Oh, it's still asking me. I was hoping to get rid of the prompt so it automatically opens, but looks like it will not be able to do that for us. But that's how you can put in the config file, and you can make the global changes as well. Okay, so I think that's about it for the command line today. So I've shown you how you can use Git Diff tool. So you can change. You don't have to use the diff the command line here. You can use whatever tool you prefer. Now on my system I do have multiple tools, so I prefer using meld, but if I had, for example, diffuse, which is actually pretty good, I would use that if I wanted to use that instead. Okay, so let's go back to the article. Obviously the article is here. It's on ojambo.com/git-diff-tool-4-code-revisions. Just a quick reminder that every day I'm hosting a live stream. Simply go to watch live, then you can see the current one we're doing right now. Or you can see the upcoming ones, the estimated date and time, and on what channel it's going to be on. And at the top of all those articles, you will see there will be a little code snip, little paragraph here to explain the actual date and approximate time. And then when you click on the link here, you can actually go to that specific channel, log in, and you will be able to ask questions live, and I will answer them. Or you can simply scroll down as it says right there, and then you can click here to watch it live as well. As you can see, that's where I am right now. Okay, so I think that's it. So if you did enjoy this, please consider supporting me. Purchase one of my WordPress plugins at ojambo.com, enroll in my programming courses at ojamboshop.com, buying my programming books on Amazon, search for @ojambo, links in the description, hiring me for your programming and app development needs at ojamboservices.com. You can also become a donor at ojambo.com/donate. And as you can see here, up here in the header, it's a fixed header. Yeah, the donate button is right there with the icon. Okay, and also be sure to subscribe, like, follow, and leave comments for more frequent content. Okay, I'll see you in the next one.